Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word. Hey, thanks for joining us as we are continuing our journey through the book of Esther. Today we're actually reading Esther 3, chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. But we're actually going to be going back to 1 Samuel 15. All right. And it's called, What does Saul's disobedience have to do with Esther? That's the question you're asking. I'm going to bring this up today, and you're like, Saul was not king at that time. He had nothing to do with the book of Esther. That was a long time ago. That was many, many kings ago. And you're going to go, what's he got to do with this book? Let me show you. Okay? So let me read chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. It says this: After these events, King Xerxes honored Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. All right. Elevating him and giving him the seat of honor higher than that of all the other nobles. All the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman, for the king had commanded this concerning him, but Mordecai would not kneel down or pay honor to. We're going to cover that tomorrow, where Mordecai, he's Jewish, he's not going to bow down to anybody except for God, okay? So, as he does this, let's go back to this guy Haman. We're just introduced to Haman here, okay? And it tells us, who his father is and so forth. But he says, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. And you're like, Agagite? Agag? Where have I heard that name before? Well, turn in your Bibles back to 1 Samuel 15, okay? 1 Samuel 15. And we're going to read verses 1 through 3 and then 13 through 23. All right. So this is where you're going to see Agag, okay? And this is where this is an ancestor of Haman in the book of Esther. All right. So let me read verses 1 through 3 in 1 Samuel 15. Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over the people of Israel. So listen now to the message of the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says: I will punish the Amalekites for what they did to Israel when they waylaid them as they came up out of Egypt. Now go attack the Amalekites and destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children, infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. Okay, so God has said through Samuel here, you need to destroy all the Amalekites. And he's saying this because when the children of Israel came up out of Egypt, these Amalekites were an enemy. And what they would do is they would the stragglers that were on the back end of the long train of people, they were the ones that would kill them off, okay? And the stragglers would be missing. Like, where'd they go? Well, the Amalekites had killed them, okay? And that was what they were doing. And God says, you know what? Destroy them, all of them, okay? Don't leave anything behind. When you read that list, they're not even the animals are supposed to be left. So God is saying, destroy all of them, So you think, man, that sounds kind of harsh, destroy everything. But God told him to do that way back. He told them to actually do that back at Jericho, okay? And you can read the disastrous thing that happened when they go to the next town of Ai, which only was a small town, and they should have easily defeated that. But they couldn't defeat Ai because they had sin in the camp because of Achan, who decided, I'm going to keep a few of these things, a robe and some money and stuff like that you couldn't wear the robe out to the people of Israel, because they'd go, where'd you get that? Oh, I got it in Jericho. Well, you weren't supposed to get anything from Jericho. Everything was supposed to be destroyed. So you would think Saul would know that in the back of his head, like, if you took something from Jericho, which was supposed to be destroyed, you made a mess of things, okay? So let's see what Saul does. He goes there and he attacks the Amalekites, but he decides, man, some of this stuff looks really good. I can't be destroying all this stuff. So he doesn't destroy it all. He brings some of it back. All right, so let's pick it up in verse 13. it says, when Samuel reached him, Saul said, "The Lord bless you. I have carried out the Lord's instructions." So Samuel and Saul had separated. Saul went into battle. Then Samuel comes back, and Saul's all righteous, like, "Oh, the Lord bless you." Let's see what happens here. But Samuel said, "What then is this bleating of sheep in my ears? What is this lowing of cattle that I hear?" So Samuel comes back and he says, I'm assuming you destroyed everything. And then, Saul says, "I did everything that you said." And then Samuel goes, "How come I hear sheep and cows? Why would I hear that?" Okay, let's see. Saul answered, verse 15, "The soldiers brought them from the Amalekites. They spared the best of the sheep and the cattle to sacrifice to the Lord your God. But we totally destroyed the rest." "Enough," Samuel said to Saul. "Let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night." "Tell me," Saul replied. Samuel said, "Although you were once small in your own eyes, did you not become the head of the tribes of Israel? The Lord anointed you king over Israel, and he sent you on a mission, saying, 'Go and completely destroy those wicked people, the Amalekites. Wage war against them until you have wiped them out.'" Okay, not taken 50% of them, wiped them out. "Why did you not obey the Lord? Why did you pounce on the plunder and do evil in the eyes of the Lord?" Verse 20, "But I did obey the Lord," Saul said. "I went on a mission the Lord assigned me. I completely destroyed the Amalekites and brought back Agag, their king." If you bring Agag, the king, back, that's not completely destroying him. That's bringing back this souvenir, this trophy of the king. "The soldiers took the sheep and the cattle from the plunder, the best of what was devoted to God, in order to sacrifice them to the Lord your God at Gilgal." You think the Lord's happy about that? Let's see what happens. Verse 22, "But Samuel replied, 'Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, and arrogance like the evil of idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king." Okay, so Saul has disappointed the Lord naturally here, and he's kept the king alive, and he's kept the animals alive. All right. It goes on to say there through the rest of the chapter that in verse 32, let's pick it up there. "Then Samuel said, 'Bring me Agag, king of the Amalekites.' Agag came to him in chains, and he thought, 'Surely the bitterness of death is past.' But Samuel said, 'As your sword has made women childless, so your mother will be childless among women.' And Samuel put Agag to death before the Lord at Gilgal." Okay. It took Samuel the prophet, not a warrior. Samuel the prophet is the one who killed Agag. Okay. But obviously, Saul left some people still alive that were ancestors of Agag. Because what happens? They show up way, 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 way later in the book of Esther. And they show up as an enemy of the Jewish people. Okay? So God knew what he was talking about way back here with Saul when he said, "Destroy, these people." And Saul goes, "Oh, no, I'll keep some of them." And he didn't wipe them all out. Okay, obviously, because then they show back up in the book of Esther as an enemy when they could have been taken care of long ago, and that would have been all done. Okay, so it's showing what. Then the question is, what does Saul's disobedience have to do with Esther? It has to do with everything with Esther, because Saul didn't obey back then, and that disobedience has affected all the way up to the book of Esther, where you have this guy that comes out, and this guy Haman comes out, and he's mad about one person not bowing down to him, and he overreacts and says, "You know what? That whole all the Jewish people need to die because of that." And so he's an enemy there. God knew what he was talking about back then, and because of that sin, it affects the people many generations down the road. So there's going to be sins that happen in your life. You have to, you can look at it. There's been sins that have happened in my past that would affect me. Okay, so you have to look at that. How am I living? How is it going to affect my children? Okay, if I'm a person that's involved in drugs and a drunk, how's it going to affect my children? Most likely they're going to become like me unless there's a big change of heart. Okay, so anyway, that's how this all plays out. Very interesting that how those two books tie together. All right, thanks for watching. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue the book of Esther. Lord's blessing. I'll see you then.